No. Hello everyone and welcome to Educational Webinar Jam. This session will be delivered by a pioneer in the research and my mentor, Dr. Dina Aldaks. She is an associate professor at the Linguistics Department and the research director at the College of Humanities. She is also a lead research director at the College of Humanities, Prince Sultan University. She is also the leader of Applied Linguistic Research Lab, a recipient of multiple awards for her contribution in research. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please use the chat box to post your questions and they will be delivered at the end of the session. Now, without further ado, I request Dr. Dina to enlighten you with all her expertise. Welcome, Dr. Dina.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maria, for this great introduction, and thank you for having me today. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and I hope that the session will meet your expectations. The session, just like Ms. Maria has just told us, it's about selecting the right journal. So I think that the people who are joining us are mainly into research and who are just like everybody else in research, wondering whether this is the right journal, whether I should choose another journal, and so on. And this is a very important question, I would say. So today I will try to talk about this topic, and I will be listening to your questions towards the end. So today I will try to talk about three parts. First, why select the right journal? Why is this very important? How can I select the right journal? And then how to avoid publishing in predatory journals. Why select the right journals? So many reasons. First thing, to avoid rejection. If you don't choose the right journal, you might end up wasting 2, 3, 4 months or even more waiting for a reply from a journal, although your article is actually out of scope. And I want to share with you a story that happened to me personally when I started writing in pragmatics. And I sent an article to the journal. The three journals you have in front of you are already top journals in the field. However, when I sent my article, I sent it to the Intercultural Pragmatics journal. And actually, I was working, if anybody is into pragmatics, I was working on speech acts. And this particular journal does not actually commend working on research on speech acts. So I was lucky actually to have a quick reply from the editor saying this is out of scope. It doesn't mean that your paper is bad, but it's out of scope for our journal. So I sent it to another journal, which is Pragmatic Society, and it was accepted. It was published. But the idea of like not knowing the journal well might just make you waste months waiting for the review, although actually what you will get is only a rejection, which is out. Another reason which is important why we select the right journal is to ensure quality review. End of the day, when you write our paper, you definitely need the expert eye, somebody who is an expert in the field who will tell you how to improve your work. And this helps enhance the quality of your final publication. So you want to choose a journal that can really offer you this service. Also, if you are a university professor, then you definitely also consider promotion. And if you publish in the right, good journal and avoid journals that are not having good reputation, then you are much more ready for applying for promotion. Nowadays, also, all universities are very much concerned about university ranking. Whatever the ranking system they are following, such as Times Higher Education or QS or academic ranking, whatever type of university ranking they're considering, big part of the evaluation of the university is journals and what type of journals you're publishing in. And they consider certain indexing, and we will talk about that in a minute. So if you really publish in some journals, you might not only ruin the reputation of your university, but you might even make them lose their chances of getting a good ranking, whether regionally or internationally. So this is something that I'm sure your university will not be very happy with. Everybody also nowadays is talking about citations, how much we are cited. It's not enough that you publish, but it's also very important how many people read your work and think that it's worthy of citation. So also choosing the right journal helps you be read and trusted and your work to be cited much more widely. And I'm giving here an example of a professor that actually I collaborate with, they have the honor of collaborating with. And as you can see here, her citations on Scopus, her citations is 2,228. This is something that everybody looks at and considers nowadays now while evaluating the researcher. This is also her citations on Google Scholar. There are, as you know, of course, I mean, there are different places where you can look for citations. But I mean, I'm sure that if you publish in top journals, then people will cite you more than if you publish in journals that are not well known or are not having good reputation. So these are some reasons. I hope that I've convinced you that choosing the right journal is a very important thing. Now, how can I select the right journal? Now, there are different strategies. I would say consulting specialists in the field is very important. If you know somebody who's published a lot in a certain area, and because it's not easy to ask questions about everything. Nobody knows everything. But if I publish, for example, I've been publishing personally, for example, in pragmatics. So if you would consult me on pragmatics, I could advise somehow. And I could say that this journal is a very good journal, this has very good publication record, or that this journal has a high H index, or I could tell you that this journal gives you the review in 2-3 months. You don't have to wait for a year. But this journal, avoid publishing there because it takes a year to review. So specialists in the field, if you can have access to this information, it's very valuable. I would say also, if you are a critical reader of public articles, you will develop a sense of which journals would be really good journals. Because when you read the article, you would be able to spot that this article was really thoroughly reviewed, really of top quality. So probably the journal is very good, has done a very good job reviewing the article. Or this article has so many flaws, and you wonder how it was published in the first place. And so there's a question mark about this journal. So this is another way of really kind of evaluating what journal is good enough. Some publishers also have, good publishers have journal selection tools, like this one, for example, by Elsevier. You have journalfinder.elsevier.com. And if you use such a tool, then you can just write the paper title, you can write the paper abstract, the keywords, the field of your research, and then click. And then the tool will just come back to you with a number of journals, of course, under this publisher. And we tell you these journals may suit your article. And of course, you have to do the extra job of going and visiting the website of these different journals to make sure which one fits your article best. But this also could be a technique that we can use. Another very important technique that is becoming very, very popular, especially because, as I told you, promotions now rely on what we call indexing, and the university ranking relies on indexing, is to use a website that indexes or shows the citations and the status of the journal. A very popular website, and perhaps Ms. Maria can have it in the chat box if you want, is www.saimado.gr This is a website that you can easily use. Just have an article and you don't know which journal I should publish in. This could be a website that gives you all the journals that are indexed in what we call Scopus, and Scopus are considered somehow a good journals. They are not the top journals. Top journals are indexed in Web of Science, but Scopus are considered good journals. And you can, as you can see on the slide here, you can know the level of the journal because the journal is given numbers. Like the top journal is given number 1, the second journal will be given 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. You will have all the journals listed to you in terms of their citations and in terms of their H index. And as you can see here, the year is there. So it is 2019, you can choose 2018, etc. Also here, the subject category. Here I have not chosen a subject category, but I will choose with you now a subject category and we'll see what happens. Also, you can refine your search. You can use only open access journals or only Web of Science journals or only CRO journals. I mean, you can make some refinement as well. So let me choose with you a field that is relevant to us here, being language teachers. I have chosen here language and linguistics. Language and linguistics. I'm still using the same website. And as you can see here, the journals are changed, have changed, because I'm talking about certain fields. The first journal, the top journal is actually Modern Language Journal, then Journal of Communication, Studies in Second Language Acquisition, Applied Linguistics, Journal of Memory and Language, and so on and so forth. I can go down the list, and then it will show me the top journal that studied, and then less, and then less, and then less, and then less. And so I will be able to choose a journal that is good enough. While I'm working on my paper, I can choose a really good journal from this website. So this is a website that I recommend because it shows you all the journals in your field and that are indexed in Scopus, and so it can give you also a kind of ranking, the first one, the second, and the third, and so on. Maybe if you feel that your article is really very well, then you can go for journals that are very much on top. If your article is somehow have some limitation, you can go, in the middle. But avoid go to the very bottom because, of course, the very bottom, as we will talk in a minute, are journals that are kind of we're not sure yet that they are valid enough. So we try to get from the top or from the middle. So far, what I have been talking about are different ways when you have an article. If you remember the ways that I talked about so far, consulting specialists, critical reading, using a journal selection tool, or using a journal indexing website. In all these cases, you were having your article and you wanted to find the right journal, and you don't know how to find the right journal. Another way of doing it, and sometimes it happens, that you ask somebody, or you've heard of a journal, and then you want to check if this journal good or not. So maybe it happens the other way around. You know a journal already, but you want to know, is it really good enough to publish in or not? In this case, I'm sure that you know that everybody now goes for publication. Of course, the top publications are considered in Web of Science. And the next, less challenging, will be publication in Scopus. So if you are going for publication in Web of Science, then we will be looking at this. This is www.webofknowledge.com. It was previously called ICI, now it's not called ICI anymore. And you have now a journal, and you want to make sure that this journal is good, is really indexed in Web of Science. And this is very important because sometimes some journals claim that they are indexed in Web of Science when actually they are not. This is a very important kind of predatory journals do that all the time. They try to say, they put for you something called researcher ID, for example, which means nothing. Researcher ID, anybody can make a researcher ID in Web of Science. It doesn't mean at all that the journal is indexed in Web of Science. So how can I know if this journal is really indexed in Web of Science or not? I can use this website, which is also available online, HTTPS MGL, which is Master Journal List, so that you remember why it's MGL. It's masterjournalist.clarivate.com. If you use this website, and perhaps Ms. Maria would like to have it on the chat if somebody would like to use it. It's as I said, MGL is Master Journal List. It's Clarivate here, it's what's related to webofscience.com. And as you can see towards the middle, it even says browse, search, explore journals indexed in Web of Science. So over here, you can write the name of the journal, the title of the journal, and you can see and then click search journals, and you can see whether this journal is really indexed in Web of Science or it's fake. Here, for example, I included the journal. Again, I tried to choose something related to language. So I related here, I wrote TESOL Quarterly, and then I click search journal. And this is the information I got. So it says, what is the publisher? And of course, the publisher is very important because when you know that the publisher is good, then you can trust the journal. I always advise people that if you look at the publishers, like we all know SAIG, we all know Taylor and Francis, we all know Elsevier, we all know, Springer. These are big publishers. So once we know the publisher is good, then we can also trust the journal. Also, it says here that it's Web of Science core collection, because Web of Science has different indices. It has Social Sciences Citation Index, it has Sciences Expanded Index, and Arts and Humanities Index. These are the three indices that show top journals, top tier journals. So here it says it is indexed in Social Sciences Citation Index. It also gives you some more information here about the publisher, etc. And actually, if you have the whole page, you'll find more information. If you are registered actually in the Clarivate, then you can also do view profile page, and you will give further information. So if the journal shows here that it is in Web of Science, but as I said, you have to check here this part. It is in which index exactly, because there is an index called Emerging Sources Citation Index under Web of Science. This index is not for top journals. It is for journals that are still being considered to be included in the core collection of Web of Science. And of course, for promotion purposes, it will not be considered as part of Web of Science. So you just have to look at this. If somebody tells you this journal is good and it's in Web of Science, go and check it yourself. For two reasons. Number one, as I said, because some journals claim things that are not true. And number two, because these journals are reviewed every year. And so maybe this year the journal is in Web of Science, maybe next year it is not Web of Science. The same thing for Scopus. Somebody advises you that this journal is in Scopus, or if the journal says it is in Scopus, then why don't you go and check it yourself? Just to make sure that the journal is really in Scopus. The website here is easy, I think, www.scopus.com. And as you can see here to the right, to my right, there is dashboard, there is author search, and there is sources. If you want to check a journal, whether it is really in Scopus or not, you will click here on sources. Sources. All right? And then after you click on sources, this is what you will see. You will find title, and then you write the name of the journal you want to check. I wrote TESOL Quarterly. And then once you write the name of the journal and you write find sources, then you will start to see whether this journal is really in Scopus or not, and you will try to see even more information. So for example, here, this is the information that I got when I wrote TESOL Quarterly, find sources. This is the information I got. TESOL Quarterly, it is covered in Scopus from 1981 to present. The publisher is this. These are the subject areas. And it gives me some further information here, which we will talk about in a minute. Okay, so we have discussed so far two things. We have discussed ways that you can use if you have the article and you just want to look for the journal. And we have also discussed how to verify that a certain journal that you heard of is really in Web of Science or is really in Scopus. I think what will help you also evaluate the journals is to get to know some of the terms that we use when we use these journals or these indexing systems. For example, citations. I'm sure we all know that. It's a quotation from or reference to a book, paper, or author, especially a scholarly work. Of course, the more citations a publisher have, an author has, or the more citations that an article has, the more citations that a journal has, it could be given as an index of quality. Each index is also, it can be, there is each index for an author, there is each index for a journal, and it is also taken as some kind of an indication for quality. A journal has each index if there is at least each papers published in that journal that have received at least each citation. So it's, as you can see, a relation between how many papers were published and how many citations it got. Because if you have a journal that publishes so many papers, but then very few citations, then there's a question mark about its quality. I'm sure we all hear the term impact factor, and it is related to Web of Science. As I said before, it is related to certain indices, which is the Social Sciences Citation Index and the Sciences Expanded Citation Index. And it's a measure of the frequency with which an average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year. So it is taken as, again, an indication of quality. So if you publish in Web of Science with an article, a journal that is having, for example, 1 impact factor or 1.5 or 2 or 1.9, it's considered as an indication of quality. However, it's very important to note that you cannot really compare across disciplines. You cannot compare impact factor across disciplines. So some disciplines have very high impact factor, some disciplines have low impact factors. You cannot compare across disciplines. Impact factor is very much related to Web of Science. Site score and SGR are related to Scopus. And site score of an academic journal is a measure reflecting the yearly average number of citations, again, to recent articles. So journals that are published in Scopus, they will have a site score. And you will see that, again, an example in a minute. And also they have SGR, which is another measure of scientific influence of, again, the journal. A very important term that is used nowadays, whether for Web of Science or for Scopus, is quartile. So you're always asked, I mean, in what view did you publish? And even universities make a difference in incentives, if they are giving incentives for publication, or if they are having grants. They may even tell you, you have to publish in Q1, in Q2. What does that mean? Simply, it's every year the journals are examined in terms of citations, and then they tell you, this is the first quartile that got the top citations, and then second quartile, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile. So this changes every year. It depends on the performance of the journal every year. And this is why when I was talking about Web of Salmago, I told you, please, when you try to publish at the top in the middle, like Q1, Q2, Q3. Because in Q4, actually, sometimes there are question marks. Some journals get to Q4, and then 1 year, and then it goes out again. Because there is review, continuous review. And they do not stand the competition, and they don't stand the requirements that are needed for indexing. So these are Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We usually try to avoid Q4 as much as possible. Let me now apply these terms that we talked about on the indexing that we used. If you remember, we talked about SciMagoJR.com. Under SciMagoJR.com, if you notice here are the journals. Here, this is the SGR that we talked about here. Remember? SGR. And it has a score, and it gives you the score. Under the SGR, you have a green box. This tells you Q1. And of course, it will keep telling you Q1, Q1, Q1 until all the Q1 are over. And then it will go to Q2, and then it will go to Q3, and then it will go to Q4. Also, there is here H index. As we said, it's very important for journals. It shows here it's 156, here it's 138, etc., which is, as I said, a relation between the number of papers that are published in the journal and the number of citations they got. And of course, it gives you more information here about the number of citations across different years and also the country of the publisher as well. And by the way, here WOS is Web of Science, because in SciMago, you can choose to look only at the journals that are published in Web of Science, or you can choose to look at all journals, Web of Science or Scopus. This is also from SciMago. Again, let's look some of the information that we were just talking about here. As you can see, TESOL quarterly, and this is H index. H index is 84, is considered very high. So this is one way, again, of evaluating journals and knowing that you are publishing in a very good journal. Let's look at its H index. This is also from SciMago. When you visit it and you choose a certain journal, it will give you all this information. Here you have, for example, TESOL quarterly Q1, means quartile 1 in education. The SGR is 1.73. Here it gives you the citations per document over the number of years, so from 1999 to 2017, how the citations, as you can see, it's going up, 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 which is a very good indication for the journal. International collaboration, the number of international collaboration, how it's increasing. Because of course, international collaboration is also an indication. If there are so many international collaborators in the journal, it means that people from all over the world trust this journal. So this is also something that you can look at. This is something also that's very interesting in SciMago, which gives you whether the journal was Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4 across the years and across the disciplines. So for example, here it's 1999 until 2019. And as you can see, the color is all green. Green means Q1. It was Q1 from 1999 to 2019. This is excellent indication. Plus, in education, in language and linguistics, or linguistics and language, it remains Q1. So some journals are in education Q1, but in language and linguistics Q2, in psychology Q3, But here, no, across disciplines, across years, it's maintaining its status. So this is a very good indication. All this information, this is what helps us understand what these indexing websites are telling us. This is from Scopus, again, the website we talked about before. Again, I looked at the same TESOL quarterly, and these are the numbers we talked about before. Here's the site score I was talking about. Here is the SGR. Of course, each one of us is specialized in a particular discipline. So after some time working in your discipline, you will know what is a good impact factor in your discipline and what is a good site score in your discipline. Because as I said, it cannot be compared across disciplines. You will know after some time of publishing a certificate. Sometimes you don't all the time have to look only for the indexing of the journal in the indexing website, but the journal itself tells you the indexing it has. So, for example, this is the Journal of English for Academic Purposes, which is published by Elsevier. And as you can see, it's of course one of the top journals. And as you can see here, it is writing for you site score. So in Scopus, this is the figure it has. And impact factor, this is the figure it has. So in Web of Science, this is its figure. And in site score, this is its figure. This is what it shows its citations, or what we call its impact. Some journals don't put it like that, don't put it for you at the top. So you have to go and look for indexing information. Not clear from you from the website. And as I said before, even if the journal says this is my site score, this is my impact factor, of course, if it's a good publisher, as I said, you can trust it. Springer, Elsevier, Taylor Francis, you can trust it. John Benjamin's. But if the publisher is not that well known, go and check it yourself. And we've seen how to check it ourselves. If the journal is not making it on the front page, then please go and look for the indexing information. Sometimes it's written as indexing, sometimes it's about the journal. You go about the journal and then you find the indexing information. So as you can see here, this is a journal called Electronic Journal of Foreign Language Teaching, and it tells you we are indexed in these systems. So as you can see here, Scopus is there. So you may wish to go again to www.scopus.com and go to sources, and you try to check whether the journal is really indexed in Scopus. This, I think, would be great. All right, so far what we've done is we have seen how different ways to look for a good journal when I have an article already with me, or to check whether a certain journal is really good enough or not. We've seen these different ways. Something very, very important is to avoid publishing in what we call predatory journals. And predatory journals, I got that from Wikipedia, I should have referenced. Predatory publishing is an exploitive academic publishing business model that involves charging publication fees to authors without checking articles for quality and legitimacy. And I want to emphasize something here. It's not only about publication fees, because as you can see now, that is the model of open access, and some very good publishers have open access journals and they reject papers. And because it is open access, they ask for publication fees. It's not only a matter of publication fees. The problem with predatory journals is that they charge publication fees and then they don't check the quality of the articles as they should. They don't provide what we call the editorial and the publishing services that legitimate academic journals provide. Not about only the publication. Some very good journals with very good publishers request publication fee. This is not the problem. The problem is, are you giving me a rigorous review of the article or not? Are you giving me the right editorial and publishing services or not? This is what distinguishes predatory journals from non-predatory journals. So the practice of predatory journals, the most important thing is lack of rigorous review of articles. You don't have rigorous review of articles, you don't have good review. And of course, those who've been dealing with journals, you know that how much you can have a review of so many pages giving you lots of feedback. So this is, you lack this. You find very minor comments that anybody can correct. So this is an indication that the journal is not really to be trusted. Also, setting exaggerated publication fees. And of course, when I say exaggerated publication fees here, exaggerated in comparison to the reputation of the journal and the publisher. Because sometimes the publisher sets a high publication fee, but then the publisher is very well known. Then maybe it's not predatory. Also, you will find no well-known figures on the editorial board. Usually the editor-in-chief should be somebody who is a well-known figure in the field, right? or a couple of people or 2-3 people on the editorial board at least. And the editorial board should be international. Now, when you look at the editorial board to find, I don't know any of these people, and even if you look them up on ResearchGate, you look up the research record, the research profile, it's not very strong. And what's interesting is that sometimes these journals, they even put names of some editorial members, and then when you go and check these people on their website, you find that they write a certain name and then they write the name of a certain university. And then you go to this university, you don't find this name. So there's a lot of manipulation over there, actually. As I said, possibly including wrong information about the editorial board. So this happens a lot also, and also it fabricates indexing. As I said, I found a number of journals that are putting for you the logo of the researcher ID of Web of Science. Researcher ID doesn't mean anything. Anybody can make researcher ID in Web of Science, but it doesn't mean that the journal is indexed in Web of Science. So they confuse people, and so you think, this is why I say you have to go and check yourself whether the journal is indexed or not. You cannot rely on what is written on the website. So why avoid predatory journals? Number one, as I said, there's no rigorous review of our work. We want, before we publish, to make sure that our article is of quality. And actually, if you deal with a predatory journal, you will not get the review that you want, and so the paper that you have will not really receive the feedback that it should in order to be improved. So this is a big minus, I think, a very big minus. Our work will not be well received in our community, whether we like it or not, but this is really true. Even if you have a good article, once it is connected or it is published in a predatory journal, people don't read it. And they do develop bad image, not only about the article, about you yourself as well. So this is why we need to be very careful. Sometimes, especially people who are doing research for the first time, they're not aware of these practices. They go and they publish in these journals, and they don't know how much harm they are doing to their CV. And when they apply somewhere and then they find that they said, no, you were not selected, they would never guess that it's because of these 2-3 journals that have very bad reputation. Also, sometimes these journals, they send you emails and they ask you to be part of the editorial board. And of course, you feel that, you can serve on editorial board and you can help people. You say yes, and then they add your name. And if your name is added, again, this is very bad for your CV. It's better not to have your name on editorial boards than to have it on a predatory journal, actually. Number 4, which could be very serious, is our work will not be accepted for promotion. Your article is published in predatory journal, your work will not be published accepted for promotion. Additionally, and this is what I got some information actually from somebody who was in the promotion board, they say that sometimes even they could suspend the application. It could give you no, we are not accepting the application altogether. You can submit again after 1 year or something like that. So you could really suffer badly from publishing in predatory journals. And the worst part, I think, also is tarnishing your name and tarnishing your university's name. This is why I think all universities now are being very careful with that, and they always send memos to their awareness memos to their faculty members and tell them don't publish in predatory journals, and they always advise them to be very careful before publishing. And of course, your name as well is very important. As I said, there are practices here, these practices. With these practices, you can spot yourself that this is a predatory journal, right? I mean, if you get a very easy review, if you pay too much money, if you're nobody good enough on the editorial board, if they say that they are indexed and then they are not indexed, if they have just joined the Q4 of Scopus, for example, just joined. So it means they are not that much valid. We can wait a little bit. If they don't have a very good publisher, This is also very important. Have a good publisher, then we can trust them. But also, these are practices that you can identify a predatory journal with. But also, there is a website that most people are using nowadays, which is Beall's List, https beallslist.net. Maybe Miss Maria would like to have it on the chat box. And this website, you can use it to spot predatory journals and predatory publishers both. As you can see here, there is a publisher. If you write under publishers, you will get a list, alphabetical list of all the publishers that have been spotted as predatory. And also, if you go to standalone journals, and you will also find a list of all the journals that are considered as predatory. But be careful, please, because all the websites I've been referring to, whether Scopus, Web of Science, Beall's List, are regularly updated. So you don't check something once and that's it. Check it every time you're submitting something. Check again, because there is always updating to all these lists, and the status of the journal could always be changed. With that, I come to the end of the session. I've tried to cover how to select a good journal for your article, and how to verify the status of the journal, and how to avoid predatory journals. And now I'll be very happy to listen to any questions or comments. I'm adding here my email if you'd like to contact me later on. I'm also adding the Twitter account for the Applied Linguistic Research Lab, which I coordinate their activities. And we also make lots of events and activities to help researchers. So if you'd like to follow the Twitter account, also you're most welcome. Ms. Maria, if you have any questions or comments, I'm ready.
Thank you, Dr. Dina. We have one question that was asked earlier while you were presenting. Ms. Noshin asked if I don't accept the same opinion of the reviewers about my article with regard to my publications of my article to the desired journal. So in that case, what do you suggest to her?
Okay, if you have sent it to a very good journal, then I think they will choose expert reviewers. Mm-hmm. This is my experience. If you send it to a really good journal, they have expert reviewers. And so the expert reviewers will be ready to do two things. First, I would say 80% of the time, I will trust their opinion, 80% of the time. But if I don't agree, I have the right to argue my point, of course, politely. I have the right to argue my point, and the reviewer, because he is so experienced, or she is very experienced, they will accept your opinion. So I've done through this and through that, but 80% of the time, I would say, when I searched and when I read more, I found that their opinion was valid because the journal was very good, so they chose very good reviewers. But again, if you know your article very well, so if there is an area where you don't agree with, feel free to argue, to explain your point of view, and to give evidence to support your opinion. And this will not lead to rejection either.
Great, thank you. If you have any more questions, participants can open their mic now and ask question directly to Dr. Dina.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Dina.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, okay. I have a question. This is Anjum, Dr. Dina. My question was, like, when I submit a paper and they are asking me to send the paper just through the email, does it mean, should it alarm me that it's a predatory journal or something?
No, not at all. There are journals actually that are in Scopus Q1, and they are with good publishers, and still they are using emails. You remember this journal, for example, let me show you. I don't want to be pointing out at certain journals, but some journals are in Web of Science, are in Scopus, and they would use actually emails. You go back, and they would use emails. So the point is, you have to check the publisher. If it's a big name, then trust it. Don't worry, send it by email.
Okay. Another thing is, if they give me the answer within 2 days or something that they have accepted it, then
there is something wrong. For sure, there is something wrong. Yeah,
So,
and such fast review there is something wrong. Although there are some publishers that are well known for giving feedback within a month, which is also considered too fast, by the way. But they are known for that, like MDPI, like Hindawi. So this is why it's better to check on the list, on Bill's list, and make sure whether they are present or not. But always giving a reply in very short period is a bad indication.
oh, thank you so much.
Mr.
السلام عليكم.
Yes.
عليكم السلام.
اولا بشكر حضرتك يا دكتوره دينا على الويبنار الرائع والمعلومات القيمه والمفيده ديت.
شكرا، الله يخليك.
ربنا يخلي حضرتك يا دكتوره دينا. بس بعد حضرتك في استفسار، بعد حضرتك انا كنت مراسل مجله تبع الويب اوف ساينس من شهر 5، فبعت لهم البحث، فهم عملوا معايا كذا ريفيو، يعني وصلنا حتى للريفيو 3، وهما بيتبعوا نظام اللي هو السكولر 1، عشان لما بعمل سبمشن هم متابعين نظام السكولر 1. بس جم دلوقتي من اول شهر 12 ووقفوا السيستم بتاع السكولر 1، قال لك نظرا بقى للضغط عليهم فوقفوا السيستم بتاع السكولر 1. فكنت بخش من خلاله وبعرف الستاتس بتاعت البحث وصل لفين، يعني awaiting reviewer scores، awaiting reviewer assignment، awaiting اللي هو الادمن ديسيشن. تمام. بس دلوقتي حضرتك وقفوا السيستم دلوقتي نظرا للضغط عليهم دلوقتي. حضرتك ممكن برضو عشان راس السنه والحاجات دي كده، فدلوقتي انا ايه اللي ممكن اعمله دلوقتي؟ اراسلهم يعني، ابعت لهم على الايميلات وكده ولا ايه؟
I guess this is the only way. يعني if they stop updating the system, you can email them. But I don't think they will reply during the Christmas holiday خالص. I don't think anybody will reply. But definitely you can write, as long as you have a problem with the online system, you can always write to the editor. You can always write to the editor, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dina.
Welcome, Ali.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
عليكم السلام.
Dr. this side Dr. Abdul Barakat from University of Afro Batin. I just want to ask exactly what is the difference between the MDPI and Hindwai and Springer Elsevier journals? Which one is authentic and how? And Elsevier and Nature, what is the difference? And how?
They are different publishers. I mean, Elsevier or Springer or.
What is the difference between the MDPI, Hindwai, and Elsevier and Springer?
I think Elsevier and Springer are more well known. I guess they are more. They have a longer history of publishing, and they have much stronger the number of journals that are with Elsevier and Springer. I guess that at least in my field. That are in Web of Science are much more. So actually with Hindawi and MDPI, what I understand is that there were question marks about some of the journals at certain point.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it remains or not, but actually in our area in language, MDPI and Hindawi are not very common in my area. So maybe you will know better. What's your area?
My area is pharmaceutical science.
This is why you will know better than me in this area.
Yes. Here I'm just pointing. In my opinion, for example, MDPI and Hindwai, these publishers are especially open to earn, not to spread the knowledge. Actually, in my opinion, actually. So that's we have to discover. I think we have to check their intention actually. When they have started, what was the mission of these journals, these publishers? So we can easily choose. Thank you.
You have a point. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Do we have any other questions, or we should wrap up the session here if there aren't any more?
Yes. السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
شكرا دكتور لينا for this very informative lecture. I just have two brief questions, please. Can I?
Sure, please go ahead.
The first one is how can we search about a valid journals or valid journals in regard with a specific scope of science or field? I don't think that the platforms of Schemago or Clarivate make us eligible to do this, to search about the valid journals in a specific field of science instead of searching for a specific journal. You got my point?
You want to look for a specific journal, right? In a specific field. Am I right?
No, I need to search for the journals in a specific field of science. I need
Yes.
the journals in the field of urban design.
Like, let's say, for example, urban design. And urban design, I want to know what are the 10 journals that are good in this discipline, right? What you mean? Yeah, this is what Scimago allows you. If I go back to Scimago, here, of course, because just I have a short, just because of the size, I had to cut over here. But if I write here, for example, under subject categories, you will find all these different categories. You can write under, maybe you find architecture, you find urban design, you find linguistics, you find engineering, whatever. You will choose the subject category that you want, and then you will find all the articles that are related to this category.
All the
Let
journals.
me get back a little bit. All the journals that are related to this category. Let me get back to this slide where I had, like, look here, for example, because my area is language and linguistics. I wrote in the category here language and linguistics, right? As you can see, it started to get me all the journals. Actually, I wrote here, I stopped at 5, but actually I'm giving, look here, 884 journals. And they are giving you 884 journals that are indexed in Scopus under language and linguistics. And in front of every journal, they are telling you whether it's Q1 or Q2 or Q3 or Q4. So you can know how strong and how reputed the journal is on the impact of the journal.
The interface. I tried the same link, Dr. Dina, but the interface is totally different. I'm now opening the schemagogr.com. It's an orange interface.
Yes, and then you will find on top journal ranking. Please click journal ranking.
Yes.
Have you clicked journal ranking?
Got it. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Just when you click journal ranking, it will open on that for you.
The second question, am I eligible to contact more than one journal, providing them with an abstract? Then I can afterwards to skip some of them and to complete contacting with just one journal for publishing?
Actually, you are sending them the abstract. Not all journals will look at your abstract. The journals require that you submit the article.
Okay. Am I eligible to do this?
So of course, it's considered against research ethics that you submit the article to more than one journal. And the problem is also, it's not only against research ethics. The problem is that if it is spotted, and it is sometimes spotted, by the way, then you will be put on the blacklist of the journal, and you will never be accepted to publish in this journal again. So you have to be very careful with that.
I just want to avoid the late publishing.
So I agree with you.
With the earlier publishing journal, then skip the others to send them an excuse.
I agree with you that it's very unfair what's going on now in the world of academia. I agree with you 100%. You publish, you send an article, you stay for like, I remember once I got rejection after 15 months. Can you imagine? Waiting for 15 months and then get a rejection. So it is very unfair, but unfortunately, the rules of the game are not fair, I would say. So multiple submissions is absolutely unacceptable in research.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. We have just 1 minute left, and Mr. Ayman has a question, and then we will wrap up today's session. Mr. Ayman, are you still there with us?
Yes, I am. I just have All right. I've got a question to Dr. Dina. I just finished my dissertation, which is in applied linguistics, second language acquisition, and I would like to know: do I have to refer to the university because to publish my own dissertation, and which kind of journal is best? To publish that's relating to this field, second language acquisition. Thank you very much for that. That's it.
You're welcome. There are so many journals in second language acquisition. If I were you, here even is the top journal, Studies in Second Language Acquisition. It's already on the screen. If I were you, I would just write language and linguistics in Seimago and consider all the journals there. As I said, Studies in Second Language Acquisition is already a top journal, but there are others. There are others that you may want to consider. Just give the 5, 6 that you will find listed here and then visit their websites and see which one fits your article the most. As for consulting with your university, I think you may wish to consult with your supervisor. I'm not sure how much intellectual contribution he has contributed, but I think with the dissertations, usually it's our work. But it wouldn't harm if you consult with your supervisor. He may even, or she may even recommend a good journal, if you wish.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ayman. Thank you, Dr. Dina. We're really honored and really appreciate your time and contribution at our platform. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That's it for the session.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maria. Appreciate it. And I thank everybody for being here. I'm having my email here one more time in case anybody would like to keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dina. I appreciate it. Bye for now.